Remember college? Ramen noodles for breakfast, keg stands at the frat house, and that one time you wore a toga to class? Sleep came easy and hangovers were the worst of our worries. We'll be digging through our college days when our knees didn't hurt and we could bend down to tie our own shoes without any help. Then we'll crash land back in reality, where you know your social calendar features more doctor's appointments than happy hours. This will be a hilarious, unflinching look at the journey from dorm room debauchery to derm filler diplomacy. We'll be chatting with friends whose stories are as legendary as they are relatable. We'll laugh, we'll cry, maybe even apply some face cream together. Getting older might come with many inconveniences, but it also comes with the wisdom, wit, and freedom to tell it like it is. This is Hot Flashbacks.
9 out of the 10 times it's been camping.
Well, that's because what else is there to do in the woods?
Exactly.
I mean, how long can you sit and look at a fire?
It just hits different.
Yeah.
Drinks hit different when you're camping.
Welcome to Hot Flashbacks. I'm excited to have y'all back. I am here today with one of my very favorite people and really probably most entertaining friend. You want to laugh. You can laugh. It's okay. Shorty, Jennifer. I sometimes forget your real name, but what do you want me to call you today?
Whatever's easiest.
I think Shorty's easier. Yeah, let's do that. Shorty, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super jazzed you're here. Let's talk about how we know each other.
Okay.
We've known each other for almost 9 years now.
Yeah, crazy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Time flies. I'm telling you. Yeah, we've known each other for almost 9 years. We played roller derby together. But we've also had, I feel like, a solid friendship off the track because you and I have been in and out of roller derby at different times even.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree. Yeah.
We like to go on adventures. What's the best trip we ever took?
Oh my gosh, I can't compare them because every single one is a riot. I do love San Diego, but Portland had some flair.
Yeah. Our trip to San Diego was a winner. God, that feels like it was forever ago.
I know.
But our families are friends and our kids have hung out. And so, yeah, you're like a part of the fam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm 50 years old, just a crotchety old lady, still trying to do roller derby and live in Utah. The only other state I've ever lived in was Idaho. So, just used to these two little areas here. And
Utah and Idaho are like sisters.
Yeah.
They're kind of the same, right?
So I don't feel like I'm very worldly.
Yeah. I mean, because they have a lot of the same culture happening, I would say.
Yeah. It's true.
If you leave Utah and go up to Idaho, which from here, would you say an hour and a half?
Mm-hmm.
2 hours, maybe, depending on where you're going in southern Idaho. It doesn't feel that different.
Right.
And there's a lot of Mormons in Idaho as well.
Mm-hmm.
So where did you live in Idaho?
I grew up in Eagle, Idaho. So I was lucky because it's close to Boise, where I felt Boise was a fun town. There's a lot of diversity there. So I don't know. Idaho people, back in the day, at least for my childhood, were a lot more friendly and there was a sense of community. We always used to get together with the whole subdivision and have cul-de-sac barbecues on the 4th, things like that.
I think Idaho does feel smaller.
Yeah. And when we moved to Utah, it just wasn't the same.
So is it fair to say you like it here?
I do like it here. It's just a different dynamic. People are just a bit different.
Yeah. So you are the big 5-0?
I am.
Dang.
I know.
How's that feel?
It feels okay, actually. I'm good with it. I know a lot of people look at it as the over the hill pivotal moment. Your life goes down the shitter, right? But I don't feel that way. I feel like I act younger. It's just a number to me. Other than that, I don't really pay attention to my age.
What do you attribute that to? Sort of not feeling like it's as old as maybe. I think, so when you were a kid, did 50 feel old?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And now you're 50 and it doesn't feel old. What do you attribute that to? Is it a mindset thing?
I think it's that. And I think it's life experience too.
Mm-hmm.
I think, as long as you're young at heart and believe that you can still do things and aren't capped just due to your age, you live a happier life. I don't want to say just because I'm 50, I have to stop playing roller derby because I'm too old. Things like that, So
Yeah. So like even not placing limits on yourself.
right,
Yeah.
right.
We were talking in a previous episode about being 40 and how that was, at least when I was a kid, how that was over the hill, right?
Yeah.
How, you get a birthday cards, you're over the hill, you've arrived, you're like officially an old person. I think that 50 is the new 40. I feel like,
Yeah.
It used to be that 40 felt like a big milestone. And I feel like 50 is probably more of a milestone now for a lot of folks. People are living longer. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons that we're chatting today, or I should say the reason, besides the fact that I like you and the sound of your voice and you were available, is I wanted to chat a little bit about your health journey.
Yeah.
And so how would you describe your perception of your health changing from maybe in your 20s until now being in your late 40s and early 50s?
So right now, actually, I feel like I've had a rebirth, so to speak. I struggled for several years of not knowing how ill I truly was. So my 30s and 40s almost felt like I was in my 60s and 70s, I'll be honest. So figuring out what was wrong, that was a huge journey in itself. Took me over 7 years. And then getting the diagnoses and also being able to treat them. And I do say multiple because I do have a few different things going on. But getting a handle on that has given me a lot of my life back.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not going to be defined by my age because I'm feeling better than I have in 20 years, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So, and that's just been within the last, 3 or 4 years.
Tell us a little bit about some of your health struggles over the past 7 years. It's sort of how you came to realize that so I think as our bodies change, sometimes we think, oh, this is aging, or, oh, this is maybe normal, right? And we don't know that not everybody is experiencing this symptom or this thing, or this is just, oh, I get a heartburn all the time. That's just what happens when you're 40, but maybe not, right? Maybe there's something going on. So tell us a little bit about some of the things you're experiencing and how you came to diagnosis and treatment and working through some of those things, and then making probably some significant personal and life changes.
Yeah, definitely. So since I was 16, I always had problems with my thyroid. I first started off as a hyperactive thyroid, and then it kind of pittered itself out and turned into hypothyroidism. So the problem that I was having later down my life journey is that I was still always chronically tired and achy and felt flu-like. And sometimes when my stress level was high or if I overexerted, I would just be down for a good 2 or 3 days. And it's really hard when you're trying to raise a family and taking care of parents and everything like that. I just didn't have the time to feel as crappy as I did.
That kind of became your normal, right?
Yeah.
For a period of time.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we adjust and adapt and think, oh, well, this is just what it is. Like
Exactly.
I just have diarrhea all the time, right? Like that must be what it's like to be 40, is that you're just always having the runs and being tired. So I was speaking with someone the other day who said, I was talking about having the stomach bug a couple weeks ago. And the person I was talking to said, oh, I've actually had diarrhea for like a month now. Maybe I should get that looked at. And I was like, yeah, that is. But sometimes I don't know if it's out of fear or if it's out of complacency, or if we just think it's because we're aging, that some of these things happen to our body and we just think, oh, we'll just learn to live with it.
Right. I think that plays a role. I also think if you have a bad experience with going in trying to get help, and if doctors are choosing not to listen to you and just lump you into here, let's just treat your symptom instead of finding the underlying cause, it gets really frustrating and you almost just give up and are like, this is my new normal. I've just got to deal with it. And I played that role for a good 10 years. And then I realized, no, it's getting worse. And I honestly thought that I was dying from cancer or something like that. Like I knew
You
if
knew
I
something
continue
was
this
really
way, I am going to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the main problem, and the only reason that I was talking about the thyroid issues, is because so many of those symptoms piggyback with other ailments that you can have, right? So everybody always, when I would go in for help, medically speaking, they would always just say, oh yeah, it's your thyroid. We need to change your medicine. It's just your thyroid. Heard that forever. And then I was lucky enough that my midwife, after I had my last child, listened to me. I felt like she was the first one that made my voice actually be heard. And so she did a more extensive panel and found out that I had Hashimoto's and a mild form of ulcerative colitis. Usually, if you have one autoimmune issue, you end up actually developing another. They kind of
that's fun.
Piggyback on top of one another.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah. So I was dealing with a lot of that fun stuff. Started getting some of it under control, but still felt lousy. However, she did give me the term of Hashimoto's, which it kind of gave me my gateway into getting the help I needed. So
yeah, a place to start, something you can tell somebody.
Right. And so I was able to be seen by an endocrinologist. And once I was able to start going through the long process of dealing with the endocrinologist, that's when we found out that I actually had hyperparathyroidism. And I had a tumor that was on my parathyroid gland that was the size of a large red grape. And so
a red grape?
Yeah.
Not a green one or a black one.
Yeah, totally
very specific.
Big, dark grape with seeds, man.
Okay. Did you get to see it?
Yes, I did.
Dang.
And it was gnarly.
Like in a jar?
Yeah.
Sweet.
It's gross.
It was like in the movies where you're kind of like waking up out of a thing and they're dangling it in front of your face. Like, look at that. Success. No? Okay.
Unfortunately, but they did give me a big Polaroid picture of it.
Sweet.
But your parathyroid gland is as small as a piece of white rice. So that just shows you the size, So when they tested the levels on it and stuff, I had actually been growing that tumor for over 15 years. And
so it's like your body was harvesting another being.
I was just, and it was funny because I could tell I would swallow and I always felt like I had a marble in my throat, which then they would go and scope my throat and do all that stuff. And they're like, no, it looks fine. I'm like, I'm telling you, something is wrong. My voice is hoarse all the time, all of that stuff. But it was just because of the tumor. So fast forward to future day now, we removed the tumor and I'm doing a lot better. I'm not fully there yet. With hyperparathyroid, it actually leaches all the calcium out of your bones and puts it in your bloodstream. So that explains why I was having such horrible flu-like symptoms.
And maybe why you were achy.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
my bones,
your bones
just
are
hurt.
Yeah.
But then again, like you said, I'm older. People always say your joints and stuff start aching. It's just the process.
Yeah. And with the way that health insurance works, or for that matter, doesn't work, it is difficult and intimidating to visit the doctor multiple times, to make these appointments, to plan 6 weeks in advance, to take time off work only to go in and have them tell you they're going to run tests and to wait 4 weeks to get it back. And then you don't hear from them. And then you got to call and it's not easy to get complicated things diagnosed. And autoimmune diseases are in particular difficult because you can have, one symptom. You could Google it now. One symptom could have 5 different things, right?
Oh, trust me. I learned not to go down the Google rabbit hole because everything, I was like, I have 72 hours to live, you guys. Let's go.
Yeah. New lease on life.
Yes. Yeah. So absolutely. You're 100% correct. But then I also learned, and I hope I can help others that are going through some of the frustrations that I experienced, because if you stop advocating for yourself, and if you're not taking the time to educate yourself on some of these issues, a lot of the time people go forever not knowing a cure, right? So I'm like, if you don't like what one medical person tells you, maybe it's not a good fit. Maybe you need to go somewhere else. My whole thing, I was fluffy. Let's be real. I retained a lot of water all the time.
I like the term fluffy.
Yeah. I was poofy.
Yeah.
I was just fluffy.
Did you feel fluffy or overweight? Is that different?
Both.
Okay.
I felt sluggish and fluffy. And I used to always tell the doctors, I felt like I was drowning in fluid. Like my face and stuff
like you're
would get
retaining
so
so much
swollen.
water. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, that was really frustrating. So I've gone to a lot of thyroid specialists, and the only thing that they would want to focus on was my weight. Just if we get the weight off, you're going to be happy. I was like, no, because that's not the real problem. Yeah, it's great to lose weight, but if it's going to continually go down this path, that's not what I'm here for. Stop trying to put me on diet pills and fix me, damn it. I got very frustrated for 6 years just because it was really hard to truly get those answers. So thank you to my midwife for actually turning my life around.
Holler at the midwife.
Yeah.
And you had a child late in life.
I did. The ripe age of 41.
Dang.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
It's fun. It's different, but I love it.
Yeah.
So, it is kind of true. And it does resonate with me when they say your first child grows up with you, but your last child you actually get to raise.
Yeah.
And I've noticed the difference from my first two compared to Olive, little Olive loaf.
Yeah.
But I'm able to enjoy her a different way than I was with the other two.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your health, your mindset, sort of how you took care of yourself or maybe didn't in your 20s and how it looks different now. When I think back to, being in my 20s, I think about being in college, having my first real career job, and some of the things you were just chatting about in terms of how we experience symptoms and then sort of say things like, oh, well, it's just age, or it'll go away in a week. And before you know it, it's been 4 weeks that you've, had this issue. When I was 20, I don't think I paid a whole lot of attention to my body and what it was telling me. And so, probably a lot of 20-year-olds, would drink and then throw up. And if I was paying attention to my body, I would not drink anymore. But then I would just drink more.
Right.
And I think we ignore our body and the things that it tells us a lot when we're younger. And so it's a process to learn how to listen to yourself.
Right.
And really be in touch with maybe how certain things make you respond. So, every time I have dairy, I have diarrhea. Maybe I need to lay off the cheese.
Yeah.
And it's still hard. It's still hard work as you get older to do that. When I was younger, I wasn't doing any of that. Man, I would, if I had the runs, I had the runs. And if I was constipated, I'd take some medicine and not give it any second thought about why those things were happening. Now I notice, we're talking about poop a lot, but
it's fine. I mean, it always comes up.
Well, it's an important, is it a kind of an essential thing to understanding where your body's at? And that's very strange. But if you have a dog, I don't know about cats because I have not really owned a cat, but if you have a dog, you don't really know how they're doing if you're not looking at their poop.
Right.
That's just right. And so you're looking at it going, oh, okay, something isn't right here. And as people, we kind of have to do the same thing sometimes. You're not feeling good. And then you're like, oh, look at that. Why is my poop a different color than normal? I better get on the internet and figure this out because it's probably not supposed to be pale gray, right? Because that I think is a sign that you have a problem with your liver. So tell me a little bit about sort of how you viewed your health and yourself in your 20s.
I just thought I was bulletproof, really. Never gave two thoughts to any of it. I would go hard with everything. If it was studying or working 3 jobs or, sleep, who needed it? I didn't. I had all the world to sleep later, and then exactly. If I felt sick, take some Advil. I lived off of Advil. Period cramps were real for me.
Gosh, taking Advil is interesting because it does help. And sometimes it's like, oh, wait, I've been taking Advil every day for a week. I better figure out.
Yeah.
Right.
And I should have done that because there were times, I'm not going to lie, in college where my menstrual cramps would be so darn bad. I would end up taking 12 and 16 pills a day because that's the only thing that would take the edge off. And there were a few times I woke up the next morning and my tongue was black.
What?
Yeah. And then
that's a thing. So last night, because I'm old, apparently, I got heartburn. I've had it like 4 or 5 times my whole life. This isn't something I normally get. I have no idea why I got it. So I woke up at 2 a.m. and I have this weird habit when I'm not feeling good, especially at night, that for some reason, I think I need to let my wife know about how I'm feeling in the middle of the night.
She appreciates it, I'm sure.
As you can imagine. So I'm kind of like, I do one of these things where I toss and turn and kind of like huff or groan so that she'll wake up and I can tell her how bad I'm feeling. And so I did last night, feel like crap, got up at 2 a.m. and I was feeling this intense sort of heaviness in my chest, kind of behind my rib cage. And I just kind of was like I said, I haven't had a heartburn a lot of my life. And so it takes me a minute to identify it. And I don't even know from what, because I had dinner at a normal time. I had a salad and a sandwich. I had a cookie. That was about it. I don't know why. And so anyway, I go around looking around my house for things that cure heartburn, and I couldn't find a single thing. So I Google it, and it says that if you chew gum, it might help. And if you have ginger. So I grab a ginger chew, I chewed some gum. Now it's like 3:30 in the morning. I still feel like crap. This is when I decide I need to wake Alex up to let her know that I feel like garbage. And she says, well, why don't you go get some Pepto-Bismol? And I was like, man, yeah, I thought of that, but I can't find it. I had taken everything out of the medicine cabinet. I couldn't find any. And she said, check Erin's room. I was like, oh, okay. So I go in there and I find some. So she had 2 chewables. That's all I could find. So I ate them. And this morning I get up and I go to the bathroom and I brush my teeth and I look in the mirror and I'm like, the fuck is what is happening on my tongue? It's like some sort of a black growth situation.
Yeah.
That's nasty. That's the Pepto.
Yeah. And then it scared me to death when I found that out.
Yeah.
And woke up because I was like, I watched a show where I think it was Almost Famous, or one of those shows, where they pump their stomach from pill overdose and it's black. So I was like,
oh, wait, the stuff that comes out is black?
Yes.
Oh.
So I'm like, oh, great. I think I'm eating holes in my gut and overdosing on pills, not even realizing that's what I'm doing.
Taking too many.
Yeah. So that was my wake up call. Like, hey, I need to get into the doctors for this menstrual cramp stuff going on, and maybe not take so much Advil, because another problem with me, hated water, would not
I know people like that. I'm glad I'm not like that, but I do know some folks who just won't drink water, and I don't get it. I'm really grateful that I'm not that person. I could drink water all day.
It's hard.
Is it still hard for you?
Yes, but I'm getting better.
Yeah.
But I even have to be careful with the types of water I drink. I have to stay away from purified water because there's thyroid disruptors in the chemicals that they use. So I have to drink spring water. I know. See, that's the one thing. That's lovely
bananas.
Issues is making me be a bougie lady.
That's bananas.
I know, right?
So can you have like Fiji water?
Yeah.
Can you have vitamin, like smart water? Can you have that?
I stay away from smart.
Really?
To tell you the truth.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's silly. But again, I don't want to be stuck on taking pills forever. Like, I already am on so many prescriptions. I have to take 8 prescriptions and then 4 supplements, And I'm like, I don't want to be one of those that has 30 pills on their windowsill in the kitchen and be responsible for taking those all the time. So I'm trying to do things that give my thyroid a break and all my other issues a break too, and just stay limited to the lovely 8 I have to take.
So when you look back, was there a point at which you realized can you look back at a moment in time where you're like, oh, this is really when it all started happening, when I started having all of these symptoms? Or did it kind of just like grow over time?
Kind of grew over time and then just kept perpetually getting worse. I really started to feel it when I was 28. That's when things really started getting bad for me. Mild frustration, but then you keep building. 5 years go down and you're still feeling like crap all the time. I just used to always tell everybody I'm at war with my own body, and that mentally takes a toll, physically takes a toll. I was like, if I could, I would just unzip this flesh suit and jump in somebody else's, because my mind wants to be active and fun, but I physically can't do it. You feel trapped And it's a real lonely place sometimes because people can't see it, right? Everything's going on internally. And so friends wouldn't understand. My parents thought I was a hypochondriac, because they couldn't see anything. Because I'm like, I don't know how to express other than I feel like crap all the time. So the whole thing's just been a learning process. But that is another thing that I'm working on still, is trying to be kind to myself and still listening to my body. But I can tell you from my 20s till now, water plays a huge role in how I feel.
Yeah.
If I'm not hydrated, my symptoms are a lot worse. I'm more achy, stuff like that.
And we live in a place where you really do need to stay hydrated because the elevation and also just the dryness of living in Utah means you really do have to make sure that you're keeping up with your water intake. And it usually more than you would have to if you were like, in Kansas or something.
Right. Yeah. And the other big issue, and I struggle with still and probably always will, is insomnia and getting adequate sleep. That's the big thing that I'm trying to work on now. And also telling myself it's okay to rest. I don't know. I've always lived my life in a constant fight or flight pattern, right? Constantly going. I'm tightly wound.
No.
Yeah, I know. Shocker.
Big development. Newsflasher on the Hot Flashbacks podcast.
Exactly.
Shorty is tightly wound. I feel that. I'm also tightly wound, and I do have to give myself the okay to take a break.
Right. So that's a process. I'm learning how to deal with it. Try to be kinder to myself. And now I do make rest a priority. Like when I start feeling crummy, I'm like, okay, my body's already told me and I've already missed the triggers that it gave me. I need to slow down and rest. So today's just a day to sit home and be calm and not do much. And I've had to learn that that's okay. But it's just really hard when I'm a single parent, in essence, because my husband works out of state and is only home on the weekends. And so that leaves me to take care of my kiddos plus my aging parents. It's a lot. You just don't have much time for yourself.
And I think part of that is putting yourself first, right? You have to learn how to do that because it's cliche, but you can't be your best self for your daughter if you're not your best self for you first.
And it took a long time to realize that.
Yeah.
That's another reason I loved our girls' trips, because that's totally recharging and so much fun. But a lot of relaxation and just being me, not worrying about any of that stuff really, truly helps.
So it seems to me in just chatting now about what your management of your health over the past couple of years has been like, that you probably had to make some significant life changes, lifestyle changes to help yourself through this and to help alleviate some of these symptoms even after the surgery. Tell me what it was like to make those adjustments late in life, because I think, one of the things that I think we as a society try to do is to show our kids healthy habits, to demonstrate them, to talk about them, but we're not perfect. And there are things that I want to instill in them and things that I'm nervous to instill in them. For instance, my parents are wonderful people, but we had a family sort of tradition, habit really, of having dessert. And that's not a terrible thing, right? Dessert is a delicious thing and a lot of people have it, but I think I developed a habit of having dessert and really feeling like I needed it in order to sort of complete my day or complete my evening. Getting off of that habit and transforming the way that I eat and not giving myself dessert every single day sounds like a minor thing, but it was difficult because I had grown up doing that. And that was what I was used to. And to be straight, I'm not straight, but and to be queer, I love to give my kids dessert. I love to make them a milkshake or to make some kind of homemade fruit popsicle. And it makes me feel good to cook and make things for them. But then I think I don't want to instill this habit in them that dessert is something you have to have all the time. And so just making that small change, I found to be difficult. How do you navigate what are some of the lifestyle changes you've had to make, and how have you navigated that in your older age? And then how do you think you could have made those same adjustments in your 20s if you had to?
Yes, I wish I would have been aware. I think my life would have been a lot easier if I would have started doing those changes back then. Obviously, right now, again, hydration, working on getting adequate sleep. That's still a struggle, but I'm trying. I took sugar and gluten out of my diet, and that's helped. But that was a gradual process too. I didn't do it all cold turkey. I just cut back and weaned myself off. In my 20s, yeah, I developed ulcers. I know it's my fault. I was a chronic Mountain Dew and Coca-Cola drinker. A big thing for me, though, my stomach was always upset. So Coke settles my gut. Oh, I have a hangover or whatever. Oh, Coke will make me feel better. I always just use Coke as a crutch.
So wait, soda is bad for you?
I know, right?
Oh my gosh.
I know.
I'm having so many revelations today.
I know. But then the funniest thing that's working for me now is I'm learning to listen to my body. Because even drinking sugar-free soda and stuff like that, I still will feel crummy. I'm like, my body doesn't really want this. Takes me a while. I'm stubborn. But once I realize, okay, this just doesn't hit the spot.
Like it's not worth it.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
I had a stomach bug like a week ago, and I haven't been that sick really since I can remember. And it made me realize what some people go through when they eat dairy and they're not supposed to. So, I'll hear someone say, oh, I'm lactose intolerant. And I'm like, oh, dude, just have the ice cream. I'm that person, right? But now that I think about what I went through with the stomach bug, and not that it's the same thing, but if someone is going through that because they had ice cream, I could see why you would not have the ice cream, because I was miserable for like 4 days. And if you're doing that to your body over and over again, you're living in that sort of cycle. I can't imagine. Was the gluten something that you were tested for, or was that something you just thought, hey, let's just see what happens if I don't do this?
I was tested for it. And then they have realized with Hashimoto's, most people that develop Hashimoto's have gluten intolerance. So for me, it was a fail-safe. They're like, just get off the gluten and the sugar. It will make your life a lot easier and your symptoms won't be as bad, because sugar is a number one product that actually causes a lot of inflammation in your body. And so I have to try to stay away from things that cause inflammation in my body. Because when I do have a lot of inflammation, then obviously my own body starts attacking my organs and stuff like that. And then I retain a lot of water.
So do you feel fluffy if you have sugar?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, I'm not perfect. Yeah. I'm not like, sometimes, bread just hits the spot, yo. Yeah. It was hard to get bread.
I bet.
And so I'll cheat from time to time. Sure. Sometimes I get away with it and I'm fine.
Yeah.
Other times, I'll eat a piece of bread, or I'll accidentally get glutened at a restaurant.
And you'll pay for it for a couple days.
And I'm like, oof, my tongue is numb. I have a headache. I kind of feel high. Took me a long time to realize, that's why it only took 1 or 2 beers for me to feel so crazy and lightheaded.
Really? That's
gluten.
why you were such a lightweight.
Yeah. And because everybody's like, I don't get it, shorty. You can drink 6 cups of whiskey and be just fine. Beer, two glasses, and I was 2 sheets to the wind, So a lot of epiphanies.
Yeah.
No gluten.
Wow. I don't want to get rid of gluten. That sounds hard.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
First 2 months were hard. If you can make it through the first, I would say 3 months, it gets easier and easier, because then when you eat it and you have those symptoms come back,
you don't want it.
You just don't want it.
Yeah.
Body's like, nope.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah, you learn.
Tell me a little bit about, let's see if you can, I'm going to pick your brain here and make you go back in the day, because you're 50 and you probably don't remember things that happened 15 years ago.
Lord help us.
Tell me about a time when you did something incredibly unhealthy and paid the price.
Oh, all the time, incredibly unhealthy. A bender, a whole weekend of just college days, fraternity parties, right? Getting no sleep, drinking heavily. We actually had an event that was in Reno, and it was for a national fraternal and sorority event where it was 4 days long. So you're gambling, you're staying up all night, there's concerts. I was drinking Jägermeister and Rumpelmints, and everything had to be of high alcohol content.
What the hell is a Rumpelmans?
Rumpelmint, it's a peppermint liqueur, and in fact, we used to mix the two together. We went hard.
Like peppermint schnapps?
Yeah,
okay.
Peppermint, but stronger. It's 101 proof. Okay. So we used to mix those together and have a good time. Smoked a Switzer sweet every once in a while, or a clove cigarette. I was never a big smoker, but would dabble a little bit, especially when you're drinking and you're with your friends. So,
because like all good friends in your 20s.
Yeah. You have to try everything at least once. But driving home from that trip, I had a fever of 104, and I ended up getting deathly ill. I was so dehydrated that I had a bladder and kidney infection, ended up getting mono, all that stuff. So I was like, all right, I questioned my life choices, and now I'm really paying the consequences. And unfortunately for me, I get reminded of that quite a bit because I'll get fever blisters when I'm really, really tired or just have overworked my whole immune system.
I think in your 20s, you may experience some of those things, right? The fever, or the urinary tract infection, or whatever it is. And you might know that it's related to choices that you made, but you're like in denial. You don't really want to admit it, because then the only way to fix it would be to stop doing those things. And I think then that comes with maturity, is like, as you get older, you start to say, okay, like when I was 23 and I would go on a bender, I'd feel like this, but I had enough energy to make it through. I had enough energy to push it off. My job wasn't that important. I didn't have children. You didn't have as many responsibilities. As you get older, the responsibilities stack up, and you start to realize that you need to really decide if it's worth it to do these things, and also recognize, hey, when I drink a lot, I get dehydrated and get diarrhea, and then I'm really tired. And if you can make that connection, then you can cut back on the drinking. But I think denial in your young age is what actually keeps you from those two things connecting, and you realizing, oh, when I do the A, B happens. And the only way I'm going to prevent that is to stop doing A.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I normally didn't ever drink heavily in my college years because I had to set the example, because I was a president of my sorority. So I always felt like I had to be kind of in control. So I didn't start going full ham until in my 30s, and would rebel against not being able to in my younger days. But yeah, I definitely paid for it. I just barely, within the last 5 years, have started to have, I'm not proud of this, but I'm going to be honest with you, where you drink, if I mix a lot of alcohol, if I go like just all day of having fun, and it continues into the evening, of where you get those blackout moments where I'm like, what happened? I have lapses of memory and I don't like it. So that was very scary for me. And so I was like, I can't go that hard like I was able to in my 30s, because now I won't remember things, and that just scares me. I don't like that feeling. So,
do you think the blackout thing has something to do with consumption, or is it maybe an allergic reaction or a body response? Because I have never had that happen, but I'm outing my sister here. She used to totally black out after like only 2 or 3 drinks. And it wasn't because she was consuming 9 or 10 drinks. She would have 1 or 2 drinks and just totally black out. And I've never experienced blackout before. And it's weird because I think in your 20s, you would joke about that kind of thing. Like, oh, so-and-so blacked out last night and I have no idea what happened. I remember this one time, a friend of mine in college is one of my roommates. I won't out her on the show, but so I went to college in Wisconsin and it was wintertime. And a lot of times we'd have these high snowbanks on the sides of the sidewalks, right? Because everybody would shovel and it would build up to the point where you might have 3, 4, or 5 feet of snow on the sides of the sidewalks and sides of the streets. And I was home for the evening. I'm not sure if I was just being a responsible adult or if I just didn't feel good, but they went out and came back and she was covered in snow. And I was like, what happened to you? Well, because she stumbled home, and in stumbling home was falling into snowbanks back and forth, left and right, until she made it all the way back to the house. And now I think, like, at the time it was like hilarious, but there comes a point where that is just less funny. Like if I did that now, I feel like I would be, one, utterly embarrassed, but two, there'd be a deep concern for like how much alcohol I had consumed. And so, those things that you kind of slough off in your 20s or even early 30s, depending on, when you start a family and things like that, they don't come across the same when you're 40, right? I mean, getting blackout drunk at 43 isn't a cute look necessarily.
No, absolutely not. So, and I've always done it responsibly, which sounds nuts, I guess. If you can
that sounds
call
like
it
something you just made up. Yeah.
Yeah. But, usually
I black out responsibly.
Yeah. On a weekend thing where I'm not around my children.
Right, you're like a
never
festival for a weekend, or like concert,
exactly.
Camping, or
and not 9 out of the 10 times it's been camping.
Well, that's because what else is there to do in the woods?
Exactly.
How long can you sit and look at a fire?
It just hits different.
Yeah.
Drinks hit different when you're camping.
The beer tastes better when you're camping.
It does. It does. And so does the whiskey and the vodka and everything else under the sun.
Yeah. And our culture does have a lot of eating and drinking.
Yeah.
There is a lot of, you're going to go to, and I said this before, but sometimes it's like, oh, well, let's go to this festival thing that's going on. Like, it's German Fest. Let's go. But what is there to really do at German Fest?
Eat and drink.
That's it. And the what?
The chicken dance.
You can do the chicken dance at home. You don't need to go to German Fest to do the chicken dance. Oktoberfest, I guess, is the word I was looking for. But, you're going to go to Oktoberfest and you're cool. You're there. Now what? Oh, you eat and drink. That's what you do. And that's what you do at a lot of festivals in America. And so that can be a struggle. I'm glad to see so many non-alcoholic beers coming on the market. Yeah. Well, I appreciate being vulnerable and sharing some of these things. It can be hard to talk about our health. And I think a lot of people are going through various health issues and not talking about it because it's uncomfortable, or because we don't want to burden other people or make other people worried or concerned. And I know over the past years that you've been going through some of these health concerns. They are things that we've talked about, and you've kind of kept us in the loop on how you're feeling and what's going on and how we can support you. I do remember delivering you some food to your house once after you weren't feeling so great. So I'm glad to be able to talk about it and to be able to, sometimes we have to make light of our health and some of the decisions that we've made because we're not perfect, right? And we know we've all done some stupid things. And hopefully this, I think that this podcast is probably changing lives. Nobody's told me that yet, but I
don't see how it can.
That's what I'm thinking. And so if nothing else, hopefully to open up the dialogue about talking about our health and some of the physical things we're going through. And so talking to other people about it can give you some perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it does help having a support network. So somebody will listen to you. And if you're not getting it on the first few tries, don't give up. That's all I can say.
I'm here to listen.
Yeah. I appreciate you, friend.
I appreciate you, Shorty. Thank you for being here. And this is Hot Flashbacks. We're out.
Want more? We're on all the major podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Just search for Hot Flashbacks and subscribe.